Hello, hello. Welcome to Your Home by Design, the podcast where we talk all about our homes and how they affect our health and well-being. Some episodes we delve deep into the research and some we just chat. I'm Nico, an interior designer and researcher passionate about bringing forward the findings so that you can improve your lifestyle and well-being. Grateful to have you. Let's do this. Welcome to today's episode. Today, we'll be chatting all about how living in a healthy home contributes to living a healthy life. If you've ever wanted a home that speaks to your whole being, a home that helps you to live healthier and happier, today we'll look at how our homes can affect us in these ways. We'll look at what a healthy home means, and I'll share some findings on what happens to us when we have clutter and when we don't maintain our spaces. I'll share how it impacts the design of your home. And then lastly, we'll look at what you'll notice personally from having a healthy home. This is part 2. Last week, I shared a couple clips from Your Pero Weekly, and this week, I'm going a bit deeper. So first, let's start off with what a healthy home is. What is a healthy home? When I say the term healthy home. So first, I think it's important to note that your home has to be something that you find beautiful. It has to be something that catches your eye. This is a reason we all love looking at beautiful spaces. And this is really important because the aesthetic experience that we create in our homes is really valuable to us in life. The key here is the word create. We are creators of our dwellings, which means you have the ability to carve out a space for you to create your dwelling to boost your happiness and well-being. And it all starts with a few very important things. So, what is a healthy home? Well, it's one that prioritizes your health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. It prioritizes how you are affected by your home. It enhances the quality of your life. And I believe that it has the potential to change your life for the better. So let's paint a picture. Imagine for a second. And, you probably know how this feels. I'm sure you've experienced this before, but just imagine your life in your home, a life where you feel on top of your schedule. You feel super relaxed as you move from room to room. You feel in control, of your life, of your schedule, of your maintenance, of your cleanliness. Everything just feels attainable. You feel rested, you feel enriched with things like relationships and friendships, family, whatever it is. You feel enriched with relationships. Well, what if I were to tell you that home organization and cleanliness is connected to this? And there are ways that you can achieve these feelings and this sort of lifestyle on a more regular basis if it's not a consistent thing for you, or you can just achieve this if this is something that you just don't feel. Okay, like if you want to feel really good in your home and inspired by the way things catch your eye, and have an effect on you, so imagine living in a home that does all of this and that feels super authentic to you. And I mention this because I think this is the ultimate goal, right? This is how we really want to feel in our homes and in our lives. And I just want to reiterate that organization and cleanliness is absolutely connected to this. And I will share some studies on this and a personal story in a few minutes. But first, I just want to say that when you look at pictures, right? Like say you're scrolling on social media and you're looking at pictures of rooms that you love, you see them, you fall in love with them, the style, the look. There is such a deeper meaning to this, to that whole experience. I think we get caught up in the moment and we're seeing things that we love, but we don't often think about what that deeper meaning is. And interior styles are associated and super connected with a lifestyle. They're intertwined, really. Like you get a sense of who might live there and what they're about by how their space looks. You get a sense of their style, their lifestyle, and the picture that you gravitate to isn't just a picture. It's almost basically selling an idea, although it's not actually selling, but there's like an emotional transaction there. Something's going on a deeper level. And when you really analyze these images, what's in them? What's not in them? Where does your eye go in the picture? What are you drawn to? Does it look clean and clutter-free, intentional? Is the color palette reminding you of something? And what particular kinds of images do you spend your time on? What stops the scroll? And one of the top things that women look at is organization. We look at organization and home management. And even if you're simply just drawn to the image because of the style, I can tell you that there is an organization to it. It looks clean, it's maintained, it's clutter-free. And the emotion and effects of living in spaces such as these are immense. So let's break it down. What we know is that we are obsessed with living in beautiful spaces. We are obsessed with our homes. And we love the idea of customization. And I am speaking for myself as well. Obviously, I'm an interior designer. I love to change my spaces for the better, but so do you, right? We all do. Taking something and making something from it, right? From DIYs to designer transformations, right? I mean, the home industry, the home decor industry has grown so massively since the pandemic. It's estimated that the home decor industry was $856 billion in 2020, and it will go to $1,427 billion by 2023. So, and wellness design has become really important. Like it's a really important conversation now, and people are really taking that into account when they're designing their spaces. And it will continue to be very important, and the research and the fields that have begun to research this is it's all new. A lot of the research, hasn't been around. The studies that are being done, a lot of them are new, and there's a lot of calls for more research, which is very exciting. Design, arts, health, and wellness in our interiors, from home spas to home gyms to cold plunges. I mean, we've all seen the cold plunges, right? This is something that's becoming very important to you. It's something that everyone is starting to kind of factor in to their lives and their homes, and it will continue to evolve in many ways. But we are just obsessed. We are obsessed with style and creating beautiful spaces, right? That really speak to us. And I think we're obsessed with starting to look at being authentic. I think that's an important thing to note, because authenticity and creating something for you is life-changing. Authenticity and creating something that you have thought through how it's going to benefit you, that's life-changing. We love when our homes look amazing, right? We want our spaces to speak to us and feel and look amazing in whatever that means for you. So in the last episode, part 1, where I played a few clips from Your Para Weekly, I mentioned how if you take care of your home, it will take care of you. And I touched on cleaning and organization and going through stuff and parting with things. And, but it's funny that we all love organization and the feeling that it has, the effect that it has. I can't tell you how many reels I've watched of people teaching me how to fold a bed sheet. Like seriously, I I was like searching it, and then I found one that I loved, so I saved it, but then I couldn't find it anymore. And, and it was like trial and error. I tried and I got them all in this like perfect looking bin. And, and then I was using them and I couldn't quite remember how to do it. So I had to watch it again. But I loved it. I loved seeing this. When I came across this video, I was so happy. So yeah, this is something we all desire for ourselves. And it does. It looks amazing, when you either look at images of well-designed spaces that are clutter-free and perfectly placed, it looks amazing. Or when we implement some things that we've learned and then we get to stand back and have a look and we feel so good when it's organized and clean. But beyond how it looks, beyond the aesthetics, the benefits for us. I think we all desire our spaces to be well organized, clutter-free, perfectly placed, because we want what that will give us. There is an emotional reward there. But what I believe as an interior designer that obviously focuses on helping you create not just a beautiful, beautiful home, but that home that contributes to your health and your well-being. I believe that when you get rid of unnecessary clutter and you organize and you maintain your home, then you get to focus on the design to enhance your life. So in my opinion, and I'm not an organization expert, that's not my area of expertise. It's the first step, though, that should happen before you design your space. Before you get to the interior design to enhance your life, before you do your interior editing, before you evaluate if the design is working for you, you have to first organize it and clean it. So I'm going to run through some findings on the health benefits of home maintenance, and they're pretty amazing. Okay, so the first one is when you do regular cleaning, like dusting and vacuuming, it helps to remove allergens and indoor pollutants and dust and that can wreak havoc on allergies and asthma. So as soon as you remove that from the air, it improves your indoor air quality. And don't you just love after a really good deep clean, the air feels so much better. And the next one is that it can enhance productivity and it can give you more focus. I love this. There was a study done by the Journal of Neuroscience, and I think it was in 2021, and it looked at the effects of clutter on the brain. And what this study suggested was excess clutter can lead to decreased attention and increased stress due to the brain's struggle to filter irrelevant information. So if you ever feel scattered in a cluttered space, that's why. And I have a personal story in regards to this because recently we were busy. We let the house go, right? I was delayed on cleaning and putting stuff away, and it was a little bit chaotic, and I always sort of, when this happens, because it's life, it happens, I always do a bit of a reset to kind of get myself back on track. But before I did the reset, what I noticed was that I felt really unable to make decisions. I felt really just scattered, and my whole life actually for about a week, it just felt a little too much, like our schedule, our appointments, our commitments, whatever it was, it just felt like, oh, I just can't seem to wrap my head around it and get on top of everything. And then I was like, of course this is happening, because this is what happens when we live in clutter, when there is things that are kind of competing for our brain's attention. This is going to happen. And so as soon as I started noticing, it was like, well, I know what's going on. And now it's really time for that reset to make sure that it gets back in order so that I can get back to feeling in control of my day-to-day. Okay, so the next one, number 3, I guess. A clean and organized home can have a calming effect on your mind. And again, like I just mentioned, when my home felt disorganized and messy, I did not have a calm mind. Feeling scattered is like the opposite of feeling calm. So clutter-free spaces can contribute to improved relaxation and give you that sense of control, which is so important. So the Journal of Environmental Psychology did a study in 2020 that looked at the effects of home environment on mental well-being. And what they found was if you have a cluttered home, it was associated with higher levels of perceived stress and decreased subjective well-being. So subjective well-being means you're thinking and feeling that your life is going very well. So there was decreased subjective well-being. And they saw that an organized and clean living space was linked to the opposite. It was linked to an improved mental health and improved mental health outcomes. And the next one, number 4, I love this one because, if you know me, I love a good night's sleep. I'm a little bit obsessed with sleep. I don't know whether it's because, my 2 young kids weren't the greatest little sleepers, and I was seriously lacking in sleep for many years. I just love it. I love a good night's sleep. I promote it. It stresses me out if somebody that I know doesn't have a good night's sleep. So if your bedroom is clean and organized and clutter-free, and if you just if you create a bedroom that you walk in and it feels like a great, inviting space, it can lead to better sleep quality and better rest overall. So I love this because, and you don't have to do much to achieve this. Like, of course, if you're going to design the space, you can go to town with everything in terms of design and how to promote a relaxing, tranquil, inviting environment. But you don't have to go to the extreme in order to do this. And I love it because if it's just simply cleaned, like really clean and organized, and it doesn't have a lot of clutter, something as simple as putting a bouquet of flowers on your dresser, even if you can't do much to the design, even those things has such a positive effect. And number 5, it can enhance your overall well-being. Right? It can help you feel satisfied and positive. It can improve your connection to people. Because if your home is well kept, then you are more likely to have social gatherings and invite people into your house. It's a real thing for people that if their homes aren't how they want to be presented, when people come by, even if it's just quickly dropping by or trying to make plans, people are going to be more reluctant to invite people in if they're just dropping by, or they're going to be more reluctant to make plans with people and invite them to their house for the plans. It's just one of those things that's the first thing that goes, is that connection to people. And if you create a home that is well kept, organized, clean, all of those things, then you will be more likely to invite people in. And that is very, very crucial to your overall happiness, because we are better when we are connected to people. Okay, so this is really, really an important one. If something is going to improve your connection with other human beings, with social gatherings, then it's, to me, this is like top priority. So here's what I think about all this. Firstly, as I mentioned, getting your home organized and clutter-free, maintaining your home is the first step, right? Once you've done this and you feel the benefits from this, or you do a reset and get it back to being organized and clean, because let's face it, this is an ongoing thing. It's never going to be at a point where it just remains that way, because you always will have to reevaluate and reorganize and make sure that it's working for you. You're always going to have to clean. You can't just clean once and make it perfect and then that's it, right? So this is an ongoing thing. But once you get there, right, it allows you to see the design. to really see the things that bring you joy and that have a positive effect on your body and your brain, right? It then allows you to evaluate and get excited about making changes to your space for the better. Because imagine how you would feel when your space is organized and clean, and then imagine tackling some design elements and then having guests over. That's a whole other benefit to that. So having friends and getting to share your space with the ones that you love and a space that you truly love, right? You fill your house with the people that fill your heart and fill your days. So creating those highly personalized spaces that speak to you functionally and aesthetically that you get to then share with the people in your lives. And that's really key. So what are the interior design things that you will notice from having a clutter-free and clean, maintained home? Well, I would say the first thing is the aesthetics. Your eye will be able to really notice the things in your space. Your brain is not going to be struggling to see things and getting distracted by the mess or the uncleanliness or whatever. So you may notice even the layout more, it will showcase your beautiful objects. The light will be able to reflect off the surfaces, and you'll be able to notice architectural details that your brain just wouldn't have picked up on because of the madness, right? You will be able to appreciate how your home looks. You'll be able to address functionality. So not to mention, simply moving through the space easier if, depending on how cluttered it is. But to be able to address functionality, it's because right away, when you don't have to think about how to get better organized or how to clean, when that's kind of off of your plate, then all you have to do is think about what's in the space and how can you improve it. So is it adding to my needs? Is it addressing all of those functions? Even, and I mentioned the layout of the floor plan, even the layout of the floor plan or the layout of the furniture, you're really going to be able to critique that because there's nothing else that you have to think about, and you can use your space for how it's intended. So for instance, if you have a desk that's full of clutter, then it won't be conducive to work. You might even feel distracted and it's not welcoming. So you just may not use it as much, or you might avoid going there altogether, which, being able to use things as they are intended is really, really important because right away, it just affects your whole body and your brain. You are going to, if you sit down at that desk and it's got clutter everywhere, I can tell you're not going to be as focused. You're not going to be as efficient, depending on what you need to do at the desk, right? And then you got to think about too, if you share that desk with anyone else in the house. I know for myself, I've got a built-in desk and that's where I do a lot of my work. And the kids have started to sit there to do some of their homework. And there are days where it's, as I've mentioned, it's busy and things get cluttered and whatever. And I notice in myself that when I come back to that desk, I come back to it differently than when it's clean. So I have 100% felt that and experienced that. I know that my work won't be as focused and I won't feel as good sitting down. When my desk is clean and organized and, it puts me on the right foot for the day. I can just get at it and I don't have to think about anything. I really do know that when your house is cluttered, your brain is cluttered. And I think a lot of us can say that, well, we don't care, it doesn't bother us. I've known many people over the years that have lived in very cluttered spaces. And a few of them have said, it just doesn't bother me. But it does affect your brain. Like this, we know. So it has an effect in some way. And I think a lot of us have experienced what it's like to live in a cluttered house and to have to move through it quickly, right? Maybe all of a sudden you're on a time crunch. You got to get out the door. Well, how are you going to do that if your shoes aren't where they belong, or you can't find, a hat or your coat or whatever, right? It just has such a big impact on our day-to-day life, our efficiency, and just how our brain is going to function. And again, if you're not able to use it as it's intended, then you're not going to see if the space is lacking in the design. So it might not be best suited to you, right? I mean, you might be living and you might have a space that's really not doing much for you. And, and if you're distracted by other things, right, then you're not going to be able to tell if it isn't. And, maybe your preferences have changed since, and you now need to reevaluate the design and the overall aesthetic. If it's maintained, you will be able to evaluate it properly, right? And it's really hard to see how you can amp up the style or the design when you aren't even using the rooms properly, when you're not using them for what they're intended for. You can't use them because they're cluttered. You're not able to see the space for what it truly is. And the other thing is it is so much easier to keep it maintained if you do this regularly. If you're consistent on cleaning and decluttering, then you'll be able to keep it up and continue to reap those benefits. And the other thing is once you get the design right, once you've tackled the maintenance and the cleanliness and everything, and you get the design right, then when you enjoy a space and you enjoy looking at a space and you feel happiness when you're in a room, you will maintain it and clean it more. So it's kind of like a full circle, right? There's benefits on both sides to that. So the last thing I'll say is a clutter-free and clean environment allows for a more aesthetically pleasing, functional, design-forward, harmonious space. It positively impacts mental well-being, it emphasizes design elements, and creates an inviting atmosphere. It helps the intended design concept and enhances the overall quality of the space. It will bring you appreciation and help you stay focused. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, the best way to support the show is to follow along and share it with someone who'd love it too. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can become one of our Better Living backers. It's a small monthly contribution that helps keep the show going. And as a thank you, I'll send you a personal note along with a 15% discount for the Create Space course when it launches. You can find the support the show link right in the show notes. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for creating space with me.